Okay, if everybody could please turn to page 154. Today is not a shiur. Move a little closer. Should we move a little closer? Not a shiur today. Let's. I want to learn something together. Page 154.
Not a shirt that I'm wearing. Yeah, right. It's not a shirt that I'm wearing a coat. That's not a coat. That's not.
But there's going to be homework. Remember, there's going to be homework today. So if you reverse to homework, then you're in trouble today. No, there's going to be homework. We won't give. We'll have a couple of guys representing the Chevra have some homework. If the Chevra could please look, Parak Beis Parsha Shmais. Last week's Parsha, still the past week's Parsha. Parak Beis Pasuk Yud Aleph. So the Pasuk says, Vayhi bayomim ahem. It was in those days, Vayigdal Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu became a gadol. Vayigdal Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu became a gadol. Vayetzel achiv, and he went out to his brothers. Vayar b'sivloisam, he saw that which they were soivel, that which they were going through. Vayarish Mitzri makish ivri me'echav, and he witnessed an Ish Mitzri, a man from a Mitzri man, was hitting an Ish Ivri, was hitting a Yid. The name of our people here is an Ivri. Was hitting an Ish Ivri Me'echa from amongst his brothers. Now let's first see Rashi. What does it mean by Yigdal Moshe? Moshe got older. What does that mean? So please look at Rashi. Pasuk Yud Aleph. Yigdal Moshe, says Rashi. V'loy kfar ksiba Yigdal hayeled. It already says that the lad grew older. If Pasuk Yud, the previous Pasuk says Vayigdal hayeled, the yeled got older. So it says again, Vayigdal Moshe, it already said the Yeled was Gadal, got older. So it's repetitious. Vayigdal Yeled, the lad got older. And here it says, Vayigdal Moshe, Moshe got older. So it's repetitive. So Rashi's bothered by what's this repetition? Reb Yehuda Rabbi Eloi. Yehuda Rabbi Eloi says, Harishon L'kaima. The first one is some physical age. Kaima is a height, is a physical maturation. Vayigdal hayeled is l'kaima, was something physical. Vasheni ligdula. The second Vayigdal is gedula. What does that mean, gedula? Shemineyu pari al beisai. Pari put him in charge of his house. So what does that mean to become a gadol then? The first one is a physical maturity, l'kaima, and the second one is ligdula, dahainu, shemineyu pari al beisai. Pari made him in charge of his house. The second translation of gadlus, the first vayigdal yeled is l'kaima, a certain physical maturation. The second one of gedula, vayigdal Moshe, is he got placed in a position. Mineyu, he placed him. Pari al beisai, Parim gave him a charge and a duty. Sounds like Gadlus is responsibility. Gadlus is the care for others. Rashi says that Hashem is a gadol, is midas tovcha. In the Rashi, it sounds Vayigdal Moshe is some sort of mineyu. Pari placed him al beisai. Responsibility, caring for the next person is gadlus. Katnus is I'm just about me. And Vayigdal Moshe, he got large. Shemineyu al beisa, he now had responsibility, he expanded. The extending of oneself, the care of others, the responsibility, the taking on the burden of others is called gadlus. That's what it means. Right? That's the translation of Vayigdal Moshe. Very important. We throw around the terms. The person's a gadol. It's gadol. A selfish person is never a gadol. They can know shas and paiskim. They're not gadlus. They're katnus. It's katnus. The not care for another person. A person could be a goyin in Shas and Paiskim, a genius. Can even be on Shas Yid and then be a big cotton. If he's about himself, it's katnus. Gadlus, vayigdal Moshe, gadlus means that he's appointed about others. He cares, expansive. Others matter. Others, by the way, even others that are different than him. That's gadlus. That's gadlus, the translation. It's important we learn a little Chumash Rashi. Vayigdal Moshe. Moshe became a gadol. It doesn't just mean physically. That was the last. Vayigdal Ayeled. But Vayigdal Moshe, the Yeled became, now there's a very good diyuk, Yaakov, in Pshat. In Oimek HaPshat, there's a very good diyuk. Because the first time it says the Yeled became a Gadol, the Yeled doesn't refer to the person of Moshe, it refers to the Yaldus of Moshe, the child matured. So the Yeled, Vayigdal HaYeled, the Yeled became a Gadol. Doesn't refer to the essence of the person. That means he became physically bigger. That's Bekaima. It refers to the Yaldus of him, not his essence. The Yeled became a Gadol. When it says Moshe became a Gadol, by the way, you can know Shas and Paiskim, that wouldn't be called Moshe became a Gadol. Moshe didn't expand. Moshe is the essence of the person. The Shema Garam, the Yeled becomes a Gadol means that he physically matured. Moshe became a Gadol, so what happened to the essence? He can know Shas and Paiskim. He didn't vaxais a Gadol at all. Zero. Person, the word is thrown around amazingly cheap. He's a Gadol. Why is he a Gadol? Doesn't care about anybody. He's very not caring about Am Yisrael. People will play a recording. This person's a gadol. He shows a discare for Klal Yisrael. It's not godless. The cotton shein kamayu. The Yeled may vayigdal Yeled. Maybe his physical has matured, but when it says Moshe Rabbeinu became a gadol, vayigdal Moshe, there was an expansion of Moshe. There was an expansion of Moshe. Vayigdal Moshe. Moshe expanded. How does Moshe expand? By the way, Eli, let's say Moshe is the biggest Moshe Shayach. Why did Moshe expand? He just became Moshe. When we discover ourselves, so why do you become a Gadol? A Gadol is expansion. There's no expansion. Moshe became Moshe. What's Vayigdal Moshe? How can a Moshe expand? How does somebody become a Gadol? What does that mean? They didn't become a Gadol, they just became themselves. Not a Gadol, he became himself. Person knows Shas, Paiskim, perfect Midas. He didn't become a Gadol. He just himself. He became himself. What's Vayigdal Moshe? How could Moshe become bigger than Moshe? Says Rashi was Mineyu al Paroi. He became in charge of Beis Paroi, responsibility to the Zulas. That's an expansion of Moshe. Moshe took on, that's Vayigdal Moshe. Says Rabbi Yehuda Bar Ilai, Shamineyu Pari al Beisei became in charge of Beis Paroi. He took on the responsibility of Beis Paroi. That's godless. That's an expansion of Moshe. By Yigdal Moshe. Moshe is now not just Moshe. Moshe has expanded to that Beis Paroi. Now is in charge of Beis Paroi. The Pirush of Gadlus. As we're steiging and discovering ourselves, has nothing to do with Gadlus. That has to do with you become yourself. Yosef is Yosef. Shloima is Shloima. Each person, Yair is Yair. When Yair takes on the responsibility of his roommates, that's a movement towards Gadlus. He's expanded, the Ani has expanded, he's taken on other responsibilities. He's caring and giver and giving and taking on the expanding his Ani to include his roommates, to include a wife, to include his children, to include others. That's Vayigdal Moshe. Moshe has expanded. Moshe has increased. He's not just found Moshe, he's expanded Moshe. So that's the first incredible Rashi. You have to learn Chumash Rashi well, Chevra. I want to really make an appeal. When I was in the Mir Yeshiva, Rav Glustein came to me once in the Ezras Nashim, and he said to me two things from Reb Moshe. He said to me, I don't know what prompted this, I don't remember. I don't remember if something happened, but he came to me, this was a personal charge. Rav Glustein, who has eyes, he has good eyes. all of us know the Chayza of Lublin was called the Seir. I'm not calling Rav Glustein the Chayza. That you don't give out titles. The Chayza of Lublin, he was given a name, the Seir. Who were called Seirs? Who's called a Chayza Nevi'im? Prophets. Nobody has been called the Seir since the prophets. Since the Nevi'im were called the Chayza, they were Seirs because they had eyes to see. The Chayza of Lublin, famously, the Chayza of Lublin was called a Seir. That's when he got the name, the Seir. He was called, amazing that Klal Yisrael called somebody the Seir. The Chayza of Lublin for 3 years wrapped the cloth around his eyes. He didn't want to see inappropriate zachen. And he was very careful to say Naim. And when he took off the cloth that used to accompany him, when he went around his eyes, his right eye was famously very, very swollen, which remained swollen his whole life. And the Chayza of Lublin, it is said, who was Shomer Zainayim, was careful what he saw, had a tremendous capacity to see things that made no sense, that he was aware of and able to see. And he was given the name, and Klal Yisrael calls him the Seer from Lublin. That's what the Chayza is called. Reb Glustein is somebody in my circle who I have experience with, who clearly is somebody who Hashem gives him an awareness of things that are unusual. He doesn't have that name, and we're not giving the name. That's a name that Klal Yisrael doesn't just give to anybody. But he does, there's Hashkacha. People describe Talmidim of Hashkacha with him. What he tells people, when he tells them. And you have weird stories. People say he shows up in weird dorms at weird times. Rav Glustein Shlita. And he'll always, like, his messages are kedai to pay heed to. And Rav Glustein, one time, in the Ezras Nashim in the Mir, came up to me. Like I said, I don't remember what prompted it, but he's a person who sees things. What can I tell you? I've had experiences with him. He sees things and knows what he tells, to whom he tells. And I was zeicha that he told it to me, and he said to me from Reb Moshe that he thinks yeshiva guys don't say enough Tillim. He thinks the yeshiva bachim should say more Tillim and they should learn more Chumash. And he told me that in Ezras Nashim in the Mir, and it stuck with me. It has stuck with me many, it's 30 years later now. And I remember that he said it. Could I say I kept it with the Chumash? I very much took it to heart and tried to learn much more Chumash after he told me that, because I felt like he understood me and told me something. The Tehillim until this Tkufa, I'm proud that some of my kids are very into Tillim. I'm proud. Yankov has learned Tillim and said Tillim, and I'm proud of that. And in this Tkufa, I've made a Kesher Tillim. Like all of Klal Yisrael, in this period since Simchas Torah, it's become like something that's really caught my attention, the Sefer Tillim, and something that I want to connect to more, and I hope all of Am Yisrael. Klal Yisrael has like formed the connection to Tillim. We're saying, and we shouldn't stop. The matziv should become, we'll change what kapitluch we say. And there are plenty of kapitluch Tillim celebrating happy occasions, but certainly our connection to Tillim has been deepened. In learning Chumash Rashi, it's something that I want to make a big push in the yeshiva. Spend time. There should be more chavrus in the yeshiva, more people learning with diligence. There's so much to pull, but learn it sophisticated. Learn it with a lumdus. Learn it with a care. Don't read it quick. Learn it. This beautiful Rashi Vayigdal Moshe that Yehuda Bar Ilai says, it means Shamineu Pari Al Beisai, is such a profound lesson in what gadlus means. What gadlus means, that the person has expanded and taken on more, and we throw it on, we use the word gadlus so cheaply and easily. Gadlus is that somebody takes on an appointment and takes it on. Takes on that responsibility. That's why Yigdal Moshe took it on. Paroi gave him an appointment, Al Beisai, and Moshe took it on, and that's called the gadlus. Moshe has expanded. He took up that he became somebody who was responsible for the Beis Paroi. That expansive state is called Vayigdal Moshe. That's a lesson to us and what gadlus always means, when somebody takes on more and really takes it on as an oil, as a responsibility, as somebody he's focused on and thinks about and accepts that oil of more than himself. There are plenty of people, Rahman al-Islam, that are like married bachrim. Guys are married. I don't want anybody here to be a married bacher. You see a guy, I'm not talking, it's interesting, when guys get married, I've spoken to some of my children about this. Different people have different anhagas. Some guys like ghost, like you don't see them for a couple of years after they get married. There's something to be said of such a guy. I'm not saying everybody has their own personalities. We all know, some of the chevras laugh, and we have different friends who've done it. Now, I'm not saying the way you should do it. Each person, but I am saying that be married, take on, be a gadol. You take on more. I'm a husband. I'm a baal. I have responsibility. And then with children, take it on. It's not in the way. It's not take it on. Become bigger. Become expansive. Become a bigger person that you have big responsibilities on you. I'll tell you something interesting. In yeshiva, so I don't know. It's not the biggest thing to say my talmidim in yeshiva. And then Haga, you don't hear a lot of them say, my Talmud. I get very anxious if people talk a lot about their Talmudim. There's a point of like, do you really think you're bigger than that person? My Talmudims are dangerous. It's like a scary words to say. There's something arrogant and dangerous. But what I like about people saying my Talmudim is the aspect that I'm mikabel, that I have people I'm responsible for. People that are reliant, people that are leaning. So I don't want to negate that. So it's a complicated line. You don't hear Rebbeim say much, my Talmida, so my Chevra, my guys, but there's a Kabbalah oil. Expand and take on responsibility and live with that responsibility. That's all godless. When Moshe's Mineyu on base para is godless. Godless is an expanded responsibility on more. When we say in terms of Klal Yisrael a gadol, Reb Shmuel Kamenetsky is a gadol and one of the Gdolei Adar because he's busy with the dar. I don't consider somebody a gadol in Klal Yisrael and they eliminate half of Klal Yisrael. It's not godless, that's katnus. It's nishkin gadol. They're not taking, if I care, very not taking responsibility, easily just write off others. That's not godless. That's katnus. That they might have, if somebody's just good to his kids, has an aspect of godless. When we say in terms of a gadol adar, it's those unique gedolim. A gadol adar is powerful words. They live with a certain responsibility. You could see it on a person. You sense it on a person. Very few people, I would put that term on Gadol Adar.
I know such a Gadol.
We know Reb Shmuel was Zeich. We met him. He came, Reb Ezra, you met him yourself. He came to our city. Menach, you remember when Reb Shmuel came? There's a sense on him. I sense on him he's a Gadol. Because I sense that he carries it. I see the way people meet him. He carries the oil of America. He carries it and accepts it. It's a responsibility. That's godless. That's emistic godless. When somebody's out there eliminating, attacking, pushing away, that's not godless. What are you carrying? It's not a gadol. That's just not a gadol. There's something else. It might be a learned man, a scholar, a scholarly figure. It might be, all different types of figures. But Vayigdal Moshe he took a minu and accepted that role. That's godless. So I think it's an important Rashi to learn and study carefully what godless is. I'd like to study the next Rashi with the Chevra. We spoke about it yesterday. I want to learn. I want the guys to learn Pshat. Manny, I want the Chevra to study Pshat in a Rashi. This Rashi is a very famous Rashi, but let's learn it. Let's study what's happening. The pasuk says, Ariel, that Moshe Rabbeinu's vayar b'sivloisam. He sees sivloisam is that which they are soivel, that which they put up with. He sees the challenges, the difficulties, the sivlus, the great pains that Klal Yisrael is going through. Says Rashi, a very famous Rashi, Nasan eina v'liba liyas meitzer aleim. Rashi brings a medrash. The medrash says that Moshe Rabbeinu gave his eyes and his heart to feel their pain. It's a very dramatic medrash. that Rashi's Nasan Eina V'li B'li Yismeitzer Aleim. I ask you a very simple question. What moved Rashi to bring this medrash? There are a lot of midrashim. There are hundreds of midrashim. Rashi always is learning Chumash with us. He's a Rebbe, one of the Rebbeim of Klal Yisrael, Rashi, and he learns Torah with us. What is Rashi addressing that he brings this medrash? What was shver in the pasuk? Moshe Rabbeinu goes out to his brothers, Vayar b'sivleisam, and he sees their pain. What's the problem? What's Rashi addressing that says a style of Moshe gets a shtickle dramatic? Nasan eina v'li b'li yismeitzelem. He gave his eyes and his heart to feel their pain. Before I get to what Rashi answered, what's he addressing? What's the question? Vayar b'sivleisam. Why does Rashi get so dramatic on Moshe Rabbeinu's giving his eyes and his heart? Nasan eina v'li. The pasuk doesn't speak about the lave of Moshe at all. And Rashi is studying Chumash with us. Now the Medrash says this, but Rashi doesn't just quote. Did I tell you it's a cool Medrash? Rashi leaves out a lot of midrashim. Rashi will bring the midrashim that address something in Pshat. Chevra, what did Rashi see in this pasuk that bothered Rashi? It was in those days Moshe becomes a gadol. He started to take on more responsibility. Vayetze al achav, he goes out to his brothers. Vayar b'sivleisim, and he sees their pains. Where does Rashi have to address something dramatic that he was nasan eina v'li b'li yismeitzer? He gave his eyes and his heart. What is Rashi addressing? So Rabbi Ron said a pshat. Rabbi Ron Shlita from Imre Bin, if I heard him correctly, said a pshat that I agree with. He doesn't need my askama. I think he's right. What is shver in the pasuk, Chevra? What is difficult in this pasuk that Rashi needed to come on to a medrash? The pasuk says, Moshe Rabbeinu saw the pain of Klal Yisrael. Rashi gets dramatic. He gave his heart, he gave his eyes and his heart. Like, whoa, it's a gishmak. Amazing, Moshe. And we'll discuss what Rashi is saying. Vayar, what's Rashi addressing? Does anybody have a pshat? Let's go, Chevra. Don't look blank. What's shver in the pasuk?
It makes sound like he's joining them in their thing.
That's a nice taina. Eliyahu said those three words, Vayetze alachim, is strange. He went out to his brothers. Doesn't add anything. It was in those days, Moshe became bigger. He now has positions of caring about others. Vayar b'sivleisim. What's Vayetze alachim, Vayar b'sivleisim? He went to his brothers. So you could say Vayetze alachim is that he traveled around Mitzrayim, looking around. So Vayetze alachim, he traveled around Vayar b'sivleisim and saw their pain. Rashi gets more dramatic than that. There's something I want to tell you. I think it's emes. There's a letter in the pasuk that's shver, my friends. Learn Torah. Don't miss a letter. Could change your life. The word bi. Bi doesn't fit. If you read this pasuk, I promise it's not a forced kasha. The beis doesn't belong. It was in those days. Vayigdal Moshe Rabbeinu took on positions of leadership. Vayetze alachav, he went out to his brothers. Vayar sivleisam, he saw their pain. Bisivleisam, in their pain. Vayar sivleisam. What's bisivleisam? Maishla, there's a bomb kasha. Vayar sivleisam. What's bisivleisam? Now here's where I don't know I'm right. You have to be careful with Torah. I want to tell you a pshat that I think Rashi means. Listen to this well. And Chaim Guri taught this to me. He said this publicly. And we went together somewhere for a Shabbos, the Kesher Nafshi. He said it. There's something so cool to what he said. And this is the whole thing. Should say Vayar Sivleisam. What's Bisivleisam? In their pains, Vayar Sivleisam. He saw Sivleisam is that which they put up with, the difficulties they put up with. Vayar Sivleisam. Moshe Rabbeinu saw their pains. What's Bisivleisam? The word bit doesn't belong. Bisivleisam. this, if anybody knows, people here know Chumash. Manny, is it a 4-step base? Vayar bisivlaisam in there? He saw sivlaisam. Sivlaisam is that which you are seivel. What does it mean to see in there sivlaisam? I don't even know what that means. So in bib means in.
He really understood it.
He saw their pain. When you see the pain, you see what they're going through. You see what he's going through. What's bisivlaisam? What does bim mean? What, Avi?
He understood that.
Vayar bisivlaisam.
He understood their pain.
Chaim Guri said to parents, he looked at parents, and he said, I want to tell you what I think your kid wants. And he said 2 words that rocked me a lot. I want to be there in my own store, and I want to be there for my kids in this story. He said emotional nuance. 2 words, emotional nuance. Nuance means details. Whoa, the poor guy. You don't know what he's going through. There's specifics to what he's going through. There are details to what he's going through. Many details. Many aspects. Many aspects. A person loses a father, Ahmad al-Islam. There are many aspects. There's nuance. Must be so hard. You know how many thousands, you know how many things you don't think of that a person goes through when a person's missing a tata? There are countless stuff and all different ways that it comes out. And nothing is lost, emotional nuance. Nothing's lost on that. No aspect is lost. No part is like, okay, is that there's simple, subtle things, all different types of things. Did you ever think about somebody has no father and everybody goes under the talus of their dad, what that person's thinking? Doesn't have a father to go under his talus. That's not lost, and a person has a father and he's not shaykh to under his father's talus, what that hits him. And there's endless nuance to a person's situation, all designed by Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't just see the pain of Klal Yisrael. Vayar bisivlaisam. The bim means that there was an understanding of all the pnimius of sivlaisam, the aspects. He saw bisivlaisam. Vayar sivlaisam, the pasuk would say, Rashi would bring no medrash. Saw their pain. What medrash to see? Rashi's bisivlaisam, says Rashi, there's something deeper going on. Says Rashi, nasan eina v'liba Elias. The lave means he looked and he understood. Nasan eina v'liba Elias meitzer aleim. There was a subtlety, a nuanced care, a nice ba'oil. That's nasan ein. That's bisivlaisam. I feel you, I get you, I understand, I'm mamish. I recently told the Bachar I understand, and he said back so rightfully, he snapped at me, no you don't! It was right, 100% he was right. No you don't, no you don't, no you don't. He snapped back, no you don't. He was right, you understand. Snap back, no you don't. Very smart. Moshe Rabbeinu's vayar bisivlaisam. He didn't. You could see sivlaisam. You could give that. No. That it matters that you feel. This is what kids want from their parents: emotional nuance. I get you, but I'm real and I'm trying to get you and working towards. That was Moshe with his people. That vayar bisivlaisam. That he had the capacity to understand them, to get them, to really feel it wasn't vayar sivlaisam. That's what Rashi is describing. That was the practice of Moshe, vayar bisivlaisam. Tifa rein in their sivlis. Is that the pshat? Rabbi Ron said the bit. I like it a lot. Is that how you learn, Manny? To feel their pain, to be bitzar for them. But it was the subtlety of it. Nasan eina v'libai. His eyes and his lave, that lave is the bis of loisam. If it was just an external, must be so hard as vayar sivloisam. The bis of loisam suggests a much kriching arain, digging in, understanding much more subtly, much more nuanced to what was happening, to what was the experience, the sense that somebody gets you. I get you as much as I can. I might even get that I don't get, but that's also a getting. But I'm like, I'm with you, mamish with you. There's like the person understands. The person understands. That's vayar b'sivloisam. So I think whenever you learn Torah, you could read this Rashi, quotes a beautiful medrash, but when you pay attention to the Rashi, we actually have the mid of nasan eina v'liboy liyos, understanding what Hashem's saying is a mid of nasan eina v'liboy. Then you get oimik, deeper pshat in the Torah. You hear more nuance in what Hashem is saying. So here, where you could just read the Rashi, and you say he quotes a cool medrash, he's saying something. Moshe Rabbeinu would see bisivleisam, not sivleisam, bisivleisam. Tifat rain, deeply into that which they are going through, not just a superficial glance of what they're going through, in all its ramifications of what they're, as much as you can. We're human. But he would look, he was searching for that, to really, we say a line, it's a cool expression today, I feel you. I feel you. To mamish feel the feeling of another, that place of aspire. I really feel you. Really, the aspire for that as much as I can feel you. The nuanced question that's asked to understand. That's vayar b'sivleisim. This was the ways of Moshe Rabbeinu that he. I want to learn another Chazal, another Rashi with the Chevra, and are continuing to learn another Rashi with the Chevra. There's something about the next Rashi that I like a lot. It's very, very instructive to me. There's something about the next Rashi that's cool. Yeah, but okay, this first in Vayar b'sivloisam, I think the responsibility of people that become Gedolim, that take on responsibility, and every father is becoming godless, and the responsibility of godless. Nothing. This pasuk's not a coincidence. Moshe becomes a gadol. Vayetzi al achiv. There's a kabbalas oil of responsibility, and what's the midas? Not vayar sivloisam, bisivloisam, nuance to Moshe.
That's the difference between like a guy that's like helping like people, and like it's not a gadol, and a guy that's helping people that is a gadol.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. When you said it to parents, it resonated a lot. You spoke about like understanding like the nuances. I think every parent, as much as we can aspire, every age your kid is, from a second grade, a guy described to me, a guy in yeshiva described to me difficulties he had in first grade. When he said over the difficulty, a beautiful person, a very brilliant guy, when he said over the difficulty, I could not see the difficulty on his face. He said over. But then he described telling a parent, and the parent didn't understand or believe it, and on his face was tremendous sorrow. Because that's the opposite. Does anybody feel me? With our own children, I don't want to exaggerate it. People worry you're going to raise kids that are... I'm not talking about exaggerate. People are so afraid. This is the way my kid is supposed to... But just be aware. Like, be with your kid. Listen out. Be in that position that your second grade son can come home and share and you hear it. And he sees in you that you get it. You get the uniqueness of the situation. Each kid has unique situations in first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. With our own children one day, emotional nuance. That you're present and you're hearing. It's not about not trusting the kid. It's that somebody else feels with the situations, the scenario. You will not raise weak kids like this. You'll have strong kids who fakert, because Tata's like with me on the journey is so powerful. Moshe Rabbeinu elevates our people, becomes the Rebbe of our people, because he feels us, he senses us. Now please bear along for another Rashi. Moshe Rabbeinu sees Bayar ish Mitzri, he sees a Mitzri man, Maka Ish Ivri Me'achiv, smacking a Yid Me'achiv from his brothers. There's a Mitzri smacking a Yid. Now Rashi brings a medrash and tells us the story. Externally, it's two people fighting, but Rashi says what the story is. Rashi brings the medrash. Comes the medrash. If you look at Maka Ish Ivri is hitting a Yid, a Mitzri is hitting a Yid, says Rashi, Malkeyu v'reideyu, he's smacking him, and to be raideh somebody is to control somebody. He's like dominating the Yid. He's, you know, in wrestling they have like top position. He's beating up a Yid. Says Rashi, what's the story? Bala shel Shalamis bas Divri haya. The Yid was the husband of Shalamis bas Divri. V'nasan eina haba. And Mitzri had put his eyes and had a taiva. This Mitzri had a taiva for a Yiddish frei, for a Jewish lady. U'belayla amidu v'yitzia mi beisai. And at night, they took her husband out of the house. V'hu chazav v'nichnas l'bayis u'ba lishtay. And this Mitzri was mizaneh with Shalamis bas Divri, kisbrua shibala. She thought it was her husband. Somehow the guy pulled something and lived with Shalamis, this Mitzri, lived with Shalamis bas Divri, fooled her into thinking it was her husband, and it really was a Mitzri at night. It was dark. V'chazara ish lebeisai, and then the Yid came back home. V'hirgish bedavar, and he realized the Mitzri did a terrible avera, took his wife. Sharasa aisai Mitzri shehirgish bedavar. It's interesting. When the Mitzri was chapped, that the husband chapped what he did, he started beating up the husband. When the Mitzri was caught and it brought out his own evil and his own sickness, he started beating up the Yid. He beat up the Yid because the Yid saw in his smallness. And nothing enrages us like being seen in our smallness. Somebody sees us in a small way, that enrages. And the Mitzri was enraged, having been caught, having been seen as a perpetrator. He beats up, what's he beating up the Yid? He harmed the Yid. Yeah. But the Yid harmed him much deeper. Huh? He hurt the Yid in disgusting, despicable ways. The Yid heard him that he chapped his own smallness. What did I do? And because the Yid chapped his smallness, it enraged him. It brought out his own smallness, and he who brings out our smallness enrages us. And the Mitzri is beating up the Yid because the Yid brought out. The Yid brought out. Yamach Shemai. Yamach Shemai said about the Yid that with the guilty conscience of the world. That one of the reasons the Goyim hate us, Yamach Shemai in Mein Kampf wrote this. I did not read his book, thankfully. But I've seen quotes that he wrote that the Jew is the guilty conscience of the world. They make us feel so guilty. It's hard when somebody makes me aware of my own frailty. And this Rashi is fascinating, Rashi, that the Mitzri was beating up the Yid because the Yid exposed his own vileness, his own inappropriateness, and that angered the Mitzri that somebody brought him out.
That's amazing.
There are times that a kid is very angry at a parent, and the parent says, what I do, and I'm not, and it could be a challenge for the parent. What you did is you look at him as not as a good person. And they see you look at them that way, and that brings out a tremendous anger. Now, I'm not condoning such an anger. I'm just telling what is. If in seeing you, I see the reflection of my weakness that gets us very angry. Now, it's important to know what's happening. Different people can bring this out of us, and seeing them, it brings out my own chesaron, and that makes me angry at the person. That seeing them brings out my own chesaron.
What should I do?
Knowing where it comes from in us is the first step. For ourselves to know what it is. When I'm angry at them, but they're looking at me a certain way. Now, I could beat them up, but that's not the answer. Okay. The answer, this Mitzri is beating a Yid. His answer is to be who he's supposed to be. Amazing Chazal. Amazing oimek of Chazal, the Mitzri beating up the Yid. What's the Mitzri beating up the Yid? He was the perpetrator, but he says when he's margish that the Yid sees, the Rashi is an amazing Rashi. Sharasa oisei Mitzri shehirgish bedavar. When the Mitzri sees that he sees, that brings an awareness to the Mitzri himself of his lowness. He beats up the Yid. Now,
you see like teachers that like whatever, that like would be extra close than the guy that's like struggling with something, like either he struggled that has him like be like extra mean.
For sure, brings up things we see. Each one brings up things we see in ourselves, and that makes us angry at him. If we understand this, of course, we could aim to see the good side of self and aim to see the correct side. And yeah, amazing Rashi, amazing Rashi. The homework I want to give, Chevra. I want us, Chevra. I want us to learn more Chumash Rashi. We have to ask, guys, we have to have a couple of Chevra every once in a while to present on Shemais, B'li Neder, to up to Parshas Ve'era. I'm going to ask two Chevra, a little homework, representing the guys to come and prepare one Rashi in Parshas Ve'era. This was Shemais, last week's Parsha. Share with us one Chumash, one Pasuk, but learning it careful. All get a Chumash. Learn. It could be in a pasuk, it could be in a Rashi, but a careful reading of Chumash, a careful reading of a Rashi, and share with us a ha'ara, an observation, a point, a subtlety, a nuance in a Rashi. If I could give homework, Dovi, you ready for tomorrow? Shaykh to give it. Is that too little time? So then I'm going to ask Dovi to be the first. He knew. It's Shaykh tomorrow. You could say also wasn't fair, wasn't quick enough. I'm going to ask Reb Dov to share one, the whole Ve'era, one, it could be one, but learn inside with us. Read us a pasuk. You could do a Rashi, it could be on a pasuk, but it should be from here. That we could read the pasuk. One ha'ara, nothing's too small, nothing's too big. Ha'ara Chumash Rashi, to bring within Chumash Rashi some ha'ara, something you share with the Chevra. I'm going to ask Dovi and I'm going to ask Yosef. Yosef and Dovi, you knew I was going to pick on you, Yosef. One hara on the whole Ve'era, read us a pasuk, share something. We're very simple-minded. It could be as simple or as deep as you want. I really want to make a focus on learning the parsha. But explain to us what's happening. We're allowed to learn Chumash and plug in and tune in to Chumash Rashi. I'm going to start asking guys once in a while. We're going to try and say for Shemais. To try it in Sefer Shemais, B'li Neder, to try to do it at least in Sefer Shemais. You mask him to this plan, Manny? I think it's a good idea. Tomorrow we'll hear too. We'll get to you, Yosef, get to you, Dovi. If somebody wants to volunteer, I'm going to ask for volunteers. If somebody comes up and says they have something they want to share, what do you say? Be careful, volunteer somebody else from. You know what we do then.
Boomerang!
Boomerang.
Someone's going to try it.
If I could read another pasuk with the Chevra, it's one of my favorite psukim. Do you know in the dorms, on the Waterbury chats, the guys love call-outs. The guys on the Waterbury, the chats, guys love these call-outs where they have a certain picture and they say it's Binyamin, the famous Geschmacka call-outs. It's very cute. And guys have a picture. They find some good-looking fella and they say Shlomo Farkas. I think there's a guy out there who feels like $1 million, like he's called Shlomo Farkas. You know that they do? You know what I'm talking about, Shlomo? I think the guy gets it. Stuff from here becomes famous, and some guy gets a thing that he was suchtal to Shlomo Farkas. They made the guy's life. But this is what goes on. The guys have the call-outs. In the parsha, there's a call-out that may be one of the worst call-outs, but I want to talk about it for a minute. Because the Torah is emes. The Torah is MS, and the Torah can't have a bad call out. If God calls it out, if God shows you a picture of one, shows you a picture of some actor and says, Relly Green, well, then it looks like Relly. God doesn't make mistakes. So this is the Torah. Listen to this call out, Chevra. Listen to this call out. This always gets me. Everybody has to look inside. I won't share this lest the Chumashim are on page 154. Let's go. Pasuk Yud Beis. Pasuk Yud Gimel, I'm sorry. Pasuk Yud Gimel. Vayetze, Eli, you have it? Pasuk Yud Gimel. Everybody, Maishlu, you have Pasuk Yud Gimel. It's page 154. Srilik, you have it? Page 1. Could you pass this to Srilik, Elio? Page 154. Pasuk Yud Gimel. Everybody has it. Hu, you and Sviki have it? Put your holy eyes, Sviki, on the holy words. Could you pass this to Ariel? Page 154. Pasuk Yud Gimel, Ariel. I love you, Ariel. Listen to this, Ariel. I like this. No, different place. Page 154, Ariel. But Pasuk Yud Gimel. You see Pasuk Yud Gimel, page 154, Ariel? Vayetze bayoyim hasheni. It was on the second day Moshe Rabbeinu goes out. V'hine shnei anashim ivrim. Two Yidden. It's very interesting that we're called a lot, Ivriim. It says, Makish Ivri, Shnei Ivrim. Ivrim is the name of the Yidden. Remember, we're in days right now, we're trying to figure out identity. What does it mean, Donnie, to be an Ivri? What's an Ivri? It's a name of our people. It's who we are. What's an Ivri? Ivri means Aver Hanar. Means the other side of a river. You know what an Ivri means? Everybody could be doing this. We do something else. It's part of our DNA. We come from Avram. When a guy says, everybody's doing this, so all my roommates are so. In Ivri is the kayach of a Yid to stand alone. It's part of our DNA. We're people who stand alone. I like Srili at the beginning. This is the onset of our people. We're called many times Ivriim because we're in the middle of Mitzrayim and we're just different. It's the, you know what an Ivri is? A guy is on a trip and everybody like might be talking Lashon Hara and one guy is like not, he's just not. That's an Ivri. It's the ability to be, what?
Oh, you little.
Everybody.
Very good. Good. In Ivri is the ability to stand alone. Eli, that's what we are. So listen. V'hinei shnei anashim Ivriyim. Two Ivris.
Always when we're talking in the context of the game or to the game that we're Ivri. And otherwise we're Yisrael. Like when we're
very good. But as he says, it should come out that the time it's used Ivriyim is amongst the Goyim a Yid is called an Ivri. Ivri Anochi. I'm that guy who's like willing to stand out. I'm just different. That's an Ivri. It's the capacity of our people. The one guy on a plane who's praying is Ivri. You're tapping into a deep place inside of us. Of course, in Mitzrayim, and when we're like being separate, then this whole place, Malizima, we're called Ivriim. If you read these psukim, right? Of course, the context of Ivri is Hashem. You see a whole bunch of Yidden. Yo, Ivriim. There's no reason to say Ivri. Ivri is in context of the Yid standing at. If you're sitting at the mechanic, and everybody's looking at certain magazines, and there's one guy who doesn't, you're an Ivri. Whenever you feel your Ivrihood, you're at a place, and everybody there's some person walking by, and 100 people look, and you don't. You're an Ivri. There's a billboard that shouldn't be seen, and you don't look. You're an Ivri. That billboard may draw 1,000 people or tens of thousands, but you're an Ivri. That's what it means to be an Ivri. We dig into something different. So now, he goes out and he sees two Ivriim. Of course, when it says he sees two Ivriim, remember Moshe Rabbeinu was looking for the Yid. He sees the Ivri. Moshe Rabbeinu is in Mitzrayim, and he specifically has taken on Vayetze al Achim. He's looking for his brothers. So he notices the Ivri. The context of Ivri is it's not the guy he's looking for the Yid. So he sees two Ivriim, Nitzim, that are fighting. They're beating each other up. They're in a fight. Vayomer la Rasha, and he says to the Rasha. Now he doesn't call him a Rasha. I see people confusing this. He doesn't necessarily call him a Rasha. It says he said to the Rasha. Not Mukhrach. Somebody told me Moshe said to him, "You Rasha." In the words of the Torah, it's not what it says. Wow. It says Vayomer la Rasha. God calls him a Rasha. He says to the Rasha. Doesn't mean he said Rasha necessarily. We have to work on Pshat. He said to the Rasha, Lama Sakariyecha, why are you hitting your friend? Now, why is the guy called a Rasha? God called him a Rasha, not Moshe. Why is he called a Rasha? Because he's right now being over in Issur Daraisa. It is Issur Daraisa to shlug another Yid. So for persons in the state of being over in Issur Daraisa is a Rasha right now. Right now is what?
Would it be both people?
One guy was hitting the other guy. I know it says they were nitzim, but it could be they weren't hitting. Nitzim is there was some fight, there was some disagreement, but he said squaring up. Right, very good. There's no issur, but he said to the Rasha, one guy threw a punch, and he said to the Rasha, Lama Sakurech, what are you hitting your friend? It's Issur Daraisa, what you're doing. Lama Sakurech, what are you hitting your friend for? He's Reyecha. He's your friend, he's a Yid, he's Doch a Yid, he's your Reya. Lama Sakurech, what are you hitting your friend for? He's a Yid, you can't hit him. I'm always so, there's something so moving, but he's not my friend, that's why I'm smacking him. There's a mitzius of the oneness of Yidden. I'm always so moved. Moshe Rabbeinu sees how we're one people. He's not like being cute, Moshe. He says, do you understand, like, we're one people, Lama Sakariyecha. When you see Yidden like this, and this is Moshe Rabbeinu appreciates every Yid, it's like cringy. Two brothers are fighting, to parents, it's like, oh, he's your brother. It's like, you don't get it, he's your brother. Moshe Rabbeinu, Lama Sakariyecha, he's your brother, he's your friend. So Moshe Rabbeinu gives him Musa, Lama Sakariyecha. Now here's the pasuk I want to speak about. Please, Arya, look at this pasuk. Vayomer. Chevra, what is the midah of Moshe Rabbeinu? What was Moshe the greatest who ever lived? A pasuk in the Torah. What's Moshe Rabbeinu's midah? He's Anav Mikol Adam. He's the most humble person. Zevi, Moshe Rabbeinu is the most humble man who ever lived. Anav Mikol Adam. Now listen to this call out. Moshe Rabbeinu stands up and says to the Yid, what are you hitting your friend for? Lama Sakriach. Vayomer, in response to Moshe Rabbeinu's like taking charge, the Yid said, Mi samcha la'ish. Who made you the man? La'ish, who made you? Sar v'shayfer, are you the prince? The shayfer on us? How? Who made you arrogant guy? Sar v'shayfer. That's the worst call in the history of humanity. He said to the one who's the opposite. Humble means he doesn't take and grab stature and positions. And here the Yid says to Moshe, who made you the ish? Misam chalish. Sar v'shayfer leinu? Are you some sort of you think you're our boss? You think you're the judge? Sar, you're grabbing Sarara here? Now, Anav is somebody who doesn't grab Sarara. What happened when Moshe Rabbeinu was asked to lead Klal Yisrael by Hashem later in the parsha? He fights with Hashem. Shalach Nabiyat Tishlach. Says the Ramban, appoint anybody better than me. Please don't appoint me. He's the most least likely to accept Sarara. God himself says, lead the Jewish nation. What does Moshe Rabbeinu say? Please send anybody but me. What does this Yid say to Moshe Rabbeinu? You grab leadership. Misamcha le'ish. Sar v'shayfer. Sar is a Sarara. Whoa! You're a guy who grabs leadership. It's the worst call in the history of man. I want to say something.
But he was the prince, Rabbi, at the end of the day.
What?
He was the prince.
It's interesting. He even had a right, but somehow he was Vayigdal Moshe.
Like
But he said, "Misamcha le'ish." It's like the worst call ever. But the reason what do you say?
Kairach did the same thing.
Yeah, it's true. Kairach said this. He said Kairach said the same thing, that you like grab Srara. I want to explain something. To just say it's the worst call, Hashem wrote the Torah. Everything's exact. Kairach, Manny points out that Kairach says to Moshe, Lama tisnasu al kal Hashem. What are you doing? This is snasus. You're like, you think it's your big... Yosef, I want to say something. I don't want to just point at I'm just pointing out an irony. There's the Torah Akdosha. Every word's emes. And if it's said the opinion of somebody looking at Moshe, so the person experienced the sense that Moshe Rabbeinu was grabbing something. And the essence of Moshe is the opposite. The one who melts away, who doesn't grab Srara. And yet he responded here by somebody who was in charge and took charge. And it's so, there's something has to be asked. I'm not just saying, oh, it's so ironic, bad call. It's the Torah speaking. Every word, this is real. And the Torah speaking, he says to Moshe, whoa, you're a grabber of power. It's mamish what he says. Misamcha le'ish. Who made you the man? Sar, are you some sort of ruler of us? That's what he experienced in Moshe. And the Torah for all eternity wants us to know we experience this in Moshe. You go later to the parasha, God says, Moshe, I want you to be in charge. Moshe Rabbeinu saying, me? Send anybody better than me, please. I'm not the one. He fights Hashem. The opposite, the Anav, the most humble of men, who doesn't see himself, it's not my place. Please keep Aaron in charge. Pick any other Yid but me. Hudi, what's happening? That the same Torah and Hashem wants us. If you don't think this irony, God Himself wrote this irony. What's the lesson from here, Chevra? Please open your hearts. There's something very profound here. The human being who Hashem wants us to know and elaborates does not accept Srara easy at all, doesn't accept positions of power. It says about Shaul HaMelech that when he was Nechbal HaKelim, he was hiding. He wasn't the type to grab power. On Moshe Rabbeinu, we're taught that he refused, he argued with Hashem, massive humility, the least likely to grab power. Comes the psukim, in one of the first events of his life, he's a grabber of power. And so it's just a bad call. The Torah records forever this call of the Yid said, whoa, who made you in charge? You're a grabber of power. What is the lesson? But it doesn't record for eternity. Okay. If he said something stupid, it doesn't become part of Torah. Okay. For all eternity, the man who refuses power, Moshe, the man who Hashem wants to know is the most humble of human beings. And when God gives him power, is the most reluctant acceptor of power in the Torah. Nobody is appointed, fights with God and says, Hashem, not me, anybody else. I'm not the one. Moshe Rabbeinu was like that. The opposite of a grabber of power. What are we to learn that in one of the first stories of his life, he's accused to be a grabber of power? That can't be a coincidence. It's not a way to learn Torah, and Hashem doesn't record somebody's stupid call. It's like the dumbest call in history. You're a grabber of power.
Yeah, really not.
By the one who's the least grabber of power, and you'll study him, and he refuses power. What do you make of this? Yeah, it's
Perspective matters. I don't know. You see the guy's perspective that is recorded, and it's not his perspective.
so. But then there's something to learn from seeing Moshe behave that way.
He wasn't always that way.
So J.D. says that he came to something. That's a beautiful pshat. This is early in Moshe's life. J.D. says a chiddush. I have to speak it out. I can't be afraid to learn. J.D. says maybe Moshe had such an atiyah towards it. And when we see it change with years and years of work.
I heard he was reluctant because of this story. So they're not going to take what I have to say.
This is where he learned it. It's funny, and that's so opposite. Chaim said he took the musar. Misamcha le'ish. Us Hasidim, somebody says even in anger, Moshe Rabbeinu later, being the great person, maybe learned it from here. That a person said, you're grabbing pan, he wasn't. But maybe that, the Torah records this Musar and Moshe Rabbeinu. That's amazing. There's such a lesson. That's what Chaim will say. Yeah, so Leo said, Rabbi said, this notice is not an accident in the Torah. It can't be. Later on, Danny, we learn about the Moshe with tremendous reluctance to accept Srara, to accept leadership. When God tried to appoint Moshe, there's many psukim. Moshe Rabbeinu fights Hashem. I'm not worthy. Send anybody else but me. And here, early in his life, he's accused of grabbing Srara. Misamcha le'ish, sar v'shayfer aleinu. So Chaim brilliantly said those words uttered in stupidity impacted Moshe. That's why the Torah records it. That's a very cool place. JD says something I'm much more reluctant to say, that he steiged in it because I don't want to add chesaron where the Torah doesn't say it. But that's a gutsy thing to say, gutsy. But Chaim says that it was a mistake. Moshe was doing what he was supposed to. The Torah records it. It could be it wasn't true. He didn't do Srara. He was doing his chiyuv, Moshe Rabbeinu. But it's recorded because Moshe learned from it. He learned how people respond. There's what to say there. There's what to say. What do you say, Manny, to this?
There he's arguing to not be a shliach. Here he already is in a place of where he's supposed to be the shliach of Hashem and slaughter, right?
Yeah. Guys, some of the Chevra had said it. Elio said right away, he is the Sar. That is his job. Vayetzel Achiv, Vayigdal, which we explained, is he took on a position in Klal Yisrael. And when it's your position and your place, there's a care for Klal Yisrael. So then he acts like a Sar. Hashem asks him for a new position. He's reluctant. And so Manny says there's a place where he was a Sar. He acted like somebody because that's what we called for. What I want to say about Midas, and I want to say the obvious point about Midas. Midas is tricky. I always say big people have contradictions. That big people are able to be very, very contradictory. There's a place, if you would see Moshe Rabbeinu, there's a place he could look like a person who grabbed power. That's a big person, yeah. Yeah, that's a big person because there was a man he's explaining that right now that was the place to be. And big people could be contradictory because they're big. And Midas means you could see a person who could be very, very firm and assertive, and they're not that way by nature, but that's what it called for at this moment. Big people could be contradictory because they are what needs to be at the time. One thing I say, I don't know Pshat here, and I like what Chaim said, what JD taught us, and I want you to think about Pshat. I want to say that the Torah is written very exact. There is no coincidence. If somebody accuses Moshe, you're a grabber of power. To the one who the Torah is Meirich was the opposite of that.
No, you're right.
What I'm suggesting is that Moshe Rabbeinu, at a time that it called, like Elio said before, like Manny pointed out, he's supposed to be powerful here. So then you saw a person, you could see a big person. If you almost watch him, he's a grabber of power. And that's what somebody said about Moshe then. Because that's what it called for then. And then he was... What? Again, that was a new shlichus. That was a reason. Either he didn't want Aaron HaKohen to feel bad, it replaced his brother, or there was an anava of saying his honest opinion. He saw godless in people. Here was a place that it needed to be. There were Yidden going through hardships. He was the one in the king's palace, and there was a position that was thrust upon him. My point is that big people are capable of contradictory attributes. I see it a lot here. In this call out, the Torah is not saying something that's a sheker. So you saw a Moshe who acted like a person who grabs Srara. If the Srara means a position of power. In the way it called for then, you saw somebody, whoa, you're an alpha. Yeah, he was supposed to be an alpha right there. And then you'll see him and you'll say, whoa, you're an alpha. But he might be a very developed person who, when the time was to be that, was that. And also has the ability very much not to be that, Moshe. There's something about this that's very magical to me, because big people have contradictions. A big person could come when the right time, go, whoa, you're assertive because now's the time to assert. And another time could be very unassertive because now's the time. They have control, they're big people. And when it comes time, so I have a lot of geschmack. What I'm saying is I have a lot of geschmack that the Moshe Rabbeinu was very reluctant to grab power, is humble, and has a tremendous reluctance, is accused here. Well, you're a power grab. Yeah, 'cause that's what it called for right here. Two people fighting, and he stood up. Shaloi ketivam, against his nature, because this is what it called for here. So that's what I'm appreciating. The Moshe was very reluctant to power, is called out as a grabber of power, because that's how we behave when it's called to do that.
So the guy did a great call.
Yeah, because it has to be true because the Torah records it. He experienced somebody who behaved in a way as a grabber of power. I appreciate that. What he's saying.
Why are we calling it a stira? That's what an unav when he is in that position. He does what Hashem wants
1,000%. It's only like bringing out like chitzonistic in my kasha when I was sitting in the kasha. I called it that. But I appreciate a lot that Moshe has this call, you're a grabber of power, to the man who was the least grabber of power in history. The pshat is that there was a time that this was the midah that was necessary, and when it was necessary, he grabbed power. And right now, two Yidden was slugging it out, and Moshe Rabbeinu felt this was his place, this was what's necessary. So what the Yid experienced, like, whoa! I would picture a giant of a person who's humble and giving and not assertive would have this moment of assertiveness because that was true. And to the eyes, we're like, whoa, you're a grabber of power. That's what was called for here. Big people are able to call up things that might be to it. It's almost hard. I always say big people, it's hard to tell their Enneagram number because they have contradictions. Because they have. Shalom said that also. You masking, Manny? I appreciate this pasuk a lot. Mi samcha le'ish sarvish. You masking, Shlomo?
Yeah, I'm just bothered by that.
That what?
I still don't have why he saw it as like a gaiva looking thing.
Yeah, but Moshe's like refereeing here. Lama sakre yecha. Look at shoulder. And clearly the behavior. But what I bring out here is the way he broke it up. Plenty of people break up fights and you don't say, who are you? You clearly broke it up with a tkefus. Clearly the Torah describes like, whoa! Who made you? Clearly, he didn't break it up meekly. There was some. The Torah's emes. Yeah, a Baal Gaiva would say Moshe acted with Gaiva. That's what he said to him. Ish sar. Whoa, you're aggressive, Moshe. Whoa, you think you're... And he did it that way because this was the time to be in charge. Excuse me. You could what? To me, if a humble person can't be strong at a certain places, then it's chesarn and midas. So that same person who's humble, there's a time to stand up and say, excuse me, here's what we're doing right now. Whoa, you're so pushy. Yeah, I mean, if that's what's called for us, then that's what he is at this moment. That's like the big people are able to like find the place that's not even their teva or their nature, but it will look like that. To the point that to the other people, it's like, whoa, you're a grabber of power. One thing I'm certain, I love Chaim's pshat that he heard this and it impacted. It's probably true. By the way, for sure we should learn from these words. By the way, whenever you give musar, it's important to ask yourself, is the other person going to feel you're just being a sar v'shayfer aleinu? And if the Torah records he said this back, so then you have to ask yourself, there's for sure something to learn from that.
But it's not a critique. It's a criticism of Moshe?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying the other Yid said that. The other Yid, yeah, you have to know where they're holding. It's interesting. I want to taina shalom. I want to say something. The psukim go on. This is my own shtickle Torah shalom. It says Moshe is afraid, and he says, "Achei noida davar." Now I understand. Al derech chayim, I wonder that Moshe said, "I need a different approach to help the Yidden," because he responded like that. So What were you saying, Shalom?
Was it necessary that he used that much force, or maybe we're pointing out that that's what, like that's.
I don't want to
what
add. That's an
was,
excellent question. I don't want to add ever Mussar where the Chazal don't give Mussar. So I don't want to. I'm very reluctant to that. When we learn Chumash, I'm very only where Chazal criticizes. Where it's not criticized, then.
You were saying before that the humblest person is created from someone who's not always the humblest.
Right. If I would find Chazal criticize, then I would do that. I don't want to add my own criticism. And I don't find the Chazals, then I don't do that. If Chazal would say it, Moshe was wrong, but I don't find any Chazal, I'm not going. I don't even want to call it a Chesar in Moshe because the Chazal, it doesn't say anywhere. If I saw one Chazal, do you see Moshe should have done it differently? I don't see Chazal, I'm not willing to say that. So instead, I just want to say that Moshe had this capacity, and of course it was necessary to be this strong. You hear, Donnie? I think there's a lot to learn from that. Ellie, there's a lot to learn from that in our own development of finding places in ourselves and finding deep places in ourselves. We're capable of contradictory behaviors, but we can find it within. It's not just because we have a neshama that's powerful. The most unassertive of humble people can find in himself. It's not like a chitzoniistic thing. It's the perfection that's in person, the soul, that's capable of the most humble man to also tap into something in himself that calls for this is the place to stand up and to be in charge. Nice to see you. You hear, Leo? Interesting, right? There's no world that this wasn't designed by Hashem. Like it just jumps out the beginning of the parasha to the end. There's not a chance. There's a coincidence. I ever pointed this out to you, Manny?
I don't know, maybe.
The last couple of years, I've noticed this. I've grappled, and I'm still working. I'm still in middle. I worked that he said this to him. What Shalom asked and Chaim alluded. It's interesting to me that he gave a Mussar and there was like an attack back. Almost like I asked, why didn't it work? I am thinking about that. Everything's exact in the Torah. He gives Mussar and the Yid responds, you think you're so powerful? A little bit I'm like, that's interesting that it almost didn't work. That's interesting to me also.
Russia, so it's not like so shredded. Didn't work on the Russia.
Yeah. But again, I'd find Chazal give a criticism, it's interesting that Moshe stands up and is screamed at for his cause. Vayomer, he responds, that's interesting to me. I don't know what to do with that. Misamcha le'ish, sar v'shayfer lein.
They ended up out of Mitzrayim.
Huh?
The only interaction was straight up in the Torah between Moshe and Aaron, right?
Yeah.
They ended up out of Mitzrayim.
Dasim Avirim.
Yeah.
I know. They're from the most confusing. Rabbis say these two people. You could write a deep report from the most two confusing people, Shalom, in the whole Torah. Dasim Avirim. If we want to mature, when we're little kids, Dasim Avirim are bad guys, and you were right, they were bad, but they're much more confusing than you think. First of all, they end up getting out of Mitzrayim. Rishayim don't get out of Mitzrayim. They're complicated dudes, Dasim Avirim, but they're complicated. And their discussion here with Moshe Rabbeinu was interesting. The Nitzim, Dasim Avirim. And they come back. They come back hard at Moshe. Misamcha le'ish. It's funny. They joined Kairach later on, who like Manny said, have the same lama tisnasu al kal Hashem. They get mad at Moshe for acting with the snasus. Okay, we'll stop here. But Thank you, Shui. Thank
It's
you.
funny they're fighting against each other, and all of a sudden they join up against each other.
It's a whole medrash what they were fighting. I want to brotherly pump. Yes, very good.
Yaakov, let's huddle up.